If you came in late, my name is Scott Mendenhall. Welcome to Unlock Church. We're so glad you are here. And our hopes always is that you connect with Jesus. That's the whole reason Unlock Church exists, is to partner with people to unlock their God-given greatness. What does that mean? Partnering means doing life with people. Like, we don't want to just do church. We're not playing church. This isn't something like we're just doing. We feel very called to do life with people, create a community that when we're done with this, that we're doing life throughout the week. I love that part about Unlock Church, that I just get to hear how people are hanging out and meeting people and stuff. That's the idea. Because I've learned this as a follower of Jesus, that Jesus uses people oftentimes to answer prayers. And so the more I do life with people, oftentimes my prayers get answered through people, or I can answer people's prayers. And I don't know they've been praying about it, but all of a sudden I see a need in their life. I'm like, I can do that for you. And I do something for them. It saves them a couple bucks or whatever. I use a talent of mine to do that. And all of a sudden, they're like, man, I've been praying how to get that done, and all of a sudden you come and do it for free. This is an answer to prayer. That happens all the time for Holly and I. Man, we just see Jesus showing up and showing off. And so the partnering piece is to do life together and to have the eyes to see the needs of people around us and in the community, and then meet those needs. And maybe it's not just you. Maybe you can't fix cars, but you know somebody that can. You're like, I got a friend. So we want community here. Second, where we talk about partnering with people to unlock their God-given greatness, that, man, there's always, it seems in decades, different movements. And right now it's very trendy to unlock your greatness. Nike had a big campaign 5 years ago about greatness. One of my children is named Greatness. And it's not trying to do something that culture is saying is relevant. It's looking at that, man, with a relationship with Jesus, is where we unlock our God-given greatness. Is that I look at like individuals that have made success maybe in athletics or in business, and they have said they're not followers of Jesus. I look at going, what more could you have done with your life if you had been a follower of Jesus? Because Jesus has plans for us, and when we engage in a relationship with him, we begin to unlock our full greatness. And so that's the hopes, is we do life together, see needs and meet needs in each other's lives, and continue to point people to Jesus on said topic into people's lives. And man, it's pretty fun to watch Jesus change people's lives. And as I look across here from the blinding lights and trying to make out who's sitting here, I know what Jesus is doing in plenty of your lives, and it excites me to watch Jesus still doing what you read about in the owner's manual of the Bible. He's still doing those things today. There are people in Unlock Church today that were once lost, didn't know who Jesus was, and now they were found, and they found Jesus, and their life is totally different. I love that. And so today, in week 3 of using the Chirstmas Strory, what am I going to talk about with the leg lamp? Some of you are like, well, probably, if you've grown up in the church, you're probably going, oh, it's something about light in the darkness. That's a good point, but no, not doing that one. Some of you are going to go, okay, you're going to talk about, you said last week, family, so how are you going to talk about family in using the leg lamp deal? I guess you just follow along and see how well we do, okay? That's the setup today's topic, and we're going to pull out a biblical principle. And I always want to remind you, this is not just spectator. This is involvement. This is where you've got to put some work in today. You need to ask yourself, what is Jesus saying to me, and what am I going to do about it? Because that's the game changer, is to be able to hear what Jesus is saying to you on a said topic, maybe about your marriage or your relationship with your parents or your boss, or you need to quit something or start something. Maybe Jesus will tell that to you, tap you on your shoulder. That's what we kind of say, is Jesus tapping you. You kind of feel it in your stomach. Ooh, that one's for me. Well, what are you going to do about it? Have an action point today as you walk out of here. That's my hopes, and we give you permission. Wherever you are with Jesus, you're like, I don't know if I believe that Jesus is who everybody says he is. When I hear that word, I get offended. I hear that name, I get offended. Or some of you grew up and you know what felt boards are, and you've been in church since then. And man, the beauty is that Jesus speaks to all of us at all different levels, and that's what I love about doing life with people and with Jesus, is that he speaks to all of us. So my hopes is today you get something out of today. I have 8 kids. If you don't know that, we have 8 children. Yes, we have not figured out what causes children. Holly's dad called us the other night on FaceTime and just like, hey, I'm just wondering if there's like number 9 around the corner or something. We're like, nope, 8 is enough. This is it. He's like, I don't believe you. There's not a chance. We're thinking you're going to have another one. I was like, don't do that to us. They're like, literally, this is a conversation. Like, they FaceTimed us at like 9 o'clock at night and had this conversation. We're like, nope, 8 is enough. Holly's like, no, 8 is good. No more children, no more. And she loves them, but she's just ready not to have a child on her all the time. And so we have 8 kids. We love them. It's like a party all the time. It's like running a camp 24 hours a day. It's so much fun. But there was a point in our lives where Holly and I, when we first got married, it was for 7 years, we had no children in our marriage. It was just Holly and I, and we had an idea. We just got in a car and went and did it. We wanted to go to Walmart, and it took like 10 minutes. You go to Walmart now, and it's like an adventure, okay? Or a disaster. It depends how you see it, right? It's just like, it takes almost all day. Thank you that there is like shipping from Walmart now and things. Holly loves that. But we know what it's like. Somebody asked us the other day, like when you started having kids and stuff, like, do you remember what it's like to just be the 2 of you? And we're like, yes. The goal is to get our children at 18 to want to move out and not come back. That's our goal. No, some parents that are well beyond, like, good luck with that one. But here's what I've learned about parenting. This is just free advice. I learned absolutely nothing, actually. But what I understand is that when I was 22 years old, and Holly and I are fresh newlyweds, and we would go out to dinner with a couple that had a baby, we're like, oh, we'll never do that. We'll never let our child do that. There's no way our child will throw a fit in the middle of an aisle. No way. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. That's just Holly and I. And then Jesus is like, you just wait. After 7 years, yeah, you'll have children, and then you'll be laughing out the other side of your face. Because we literally would come away from our family events. Like, Holly has 6 siblings, and we were the last ones to have kids. Most of Holly's brothers and sisters had 2 or 3 kids by the time we had 1. And so we would leave Christmas time and be like, wow, my child will never speak to me like that. And we just had all these, like, it's like, are you serious? Like, now I am a parent, and I realized how easy it is to train that in a child, that they'll never speak to me like that. Actually, I have not. I've learned that I have no control over my children, and that they do fall down in the middle of the aisle at Costco, and you're just like, for a split second, you're like, is anyone else watching? You're like, everyone is watching. Oh, my gosh. And what do you do in those moments? Or why is it that children look at, like, glass jars, and they want to grab the bottom one, and they all fall? I don't know if that's ever happened to you. It's happened to us. Somebody grabbed jelly at Costco, and just, I'm like, put that stuff up on a shelf. Come on. Think, like, help a parent out. And then they're thinking, watch your children. It's like, hey, okay, we got some work to do. And so it's funny when you look at somebody else's life, until you walk a mile in their shoes, you kind of walk in a self-righteous deal. I'll never let that happen. That won't happen on my watch. There's no way I'm going to do that. We just come from this, I'll do it right. And then we walk a mile in our shoes and go, wow, this is more difficult than I realized. Wow, I didn't see it like that. Now I know why they behaved like that. I know why they were stressed. I now know, like, when I look back growing up and think about the times where my parents are stressed and stuff, and I'm just thinking, man, my parents, they're just so moody. And now that I'm an adult and I am worried about things like they had to worry about, my car running, house payment, all this stuff, and the stress of job and stuff, you start going, oh, those days, it wasn't that they didn't like me. It was that life was squeezing them. And now I know. It's funny, as you become a parent, you start realizing you have a lot more grace for your parents. Now, if only we could tap into that grace and mercy that we gain after we walk through the miles through their shoes, if we had that beforehand, that's a game changer. That shifts it drastically. You watching that clip there, this leg lamp in a box with fragile on it, and they pull out, I know it said fragile, I know that, just so some of you are like, does he really think he said that? No. But he pulls out a leg lamp, and he's amped about the leg lamp. Like, he's like, this is the best thing ever. It's free. Yes. And he wants to display the thing he valued at that moment in front of the house. You saw the wife's face. She's like, oh my gosh, that is disgusting. This is embarrassing. Oh my goodness. What became in the moment was she wasn't supporting her husband. She was thinking only about, what will people think of us? If you want to have a successful relationship with your husband or your wife, you've got to be able to learn how to support them when they're going to have different eyes than you and different things. You've got to be able to walk in and go, how do I get where they are at? How do I understand why they would want to put a leg lamp in the front of the house? Or if you took Holly and I, why? When we first moved here, we had a wooden fence in the backyard, and I was just like, the fence has got to go. Holly's like, I like that fence. I got big plans for this fence. I'm going to build a ramp out of this, a snowboarding ramp. It's going to be so amazing. The kids are going to love it. She's like, you're going to do what? I was like, yeah, a ramp. this is going to be so magical. And so first year here, I tore down this wooden fence, and I rebuilt it into this massive, massive ramp. Some of you have seen it. It's now gone, but it was at my house for a long, long time, and it was like magical. But I remember Holly at the beginning going, why do we need a ramp again? And then we built it, and she's like, I love that ramp. The first time she went down it, I was just glowing. I was like, this is awesome. Holly's going down. She's screaming, and, she's going so fast. I think her lips filled up with air, and they're back here, and going, ah! As she's going down it was so good. It was so good. And though she didn't understand why I was building a ramp, I never felt this, you're an idiot for building, you're wasting your time. It was a trust. It was like, okay, you're going to build a ramp. Let's see what happens. I'll wait until after it's built and after I see where we're headed in here. And there's this trust in it that she had with me when we built the ramp. And I think that's one of those things that I value the most in our relationship is that either one of us can share an absolutely bonker idea. And for the most part, none of us jump to the how too fast. We're like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this together. And then as we do it together, we either rise to success or we fall to failure. And we both have said we value the fails because it means we're trying something new. But oftentimes what happens inside any kind of relationships, when new is introduced, someone wants to reject the new. But oftentimes if we want God to do something phenomenal in our lives, he's going to call us into the new that you've never done before. Because if you're wanting something different in your life, in different results, you got to change the equation. You got to do something different. If you want your relationship to be different with your spouse, then you've got to do something new. And you've got to accept the new. Not the, oh yeah, great, here, put the leg lamp up there and I'll just do my own thing. And if you've seen the movie, spoiler, it is alluded to, you never know it as a viewer, but you kind of got the impression that she breaks the lamp a little bit later. And it's like, I don't know how it broke at all. You don't know if she actually did it. It's probably be funny to take a poll who thought she actually broke it and it fell over. It just would be interesting. I don't know if it would be divided women and men. Men said, yes, she broke it. Women were like, no, it did not. It just fell over. I don't know. They never actually let you know in the movie. But they do make it allude to that she was not into the leg lamp. And at the end of the day, it's just a leg lamp. What in your relationship with your spouse is just simply a leg lamp, not big enough to sacrifice your relationship over? That it's like, you ever heard, don't cry over spilt milk, right? It's like, yeah, it's just a leg lamp. I mean, I don't have one of those in my window, but there are things that I have done in the house that I'm sure Holly's like, oh my gosh, why did we do that? Why would we do that? Like, it was my idea when we first moved here. We lived in a condo down in Florida that we couldn't paint, so it was all white. So we moved here. I was like, I want color. I want lots of it. And so we painted the house orange, inside of the house orange and green. It looked straight from the 70s. And I was like, this is amazing. And then fast forward a couple years later, I was like, what did I do to this place? Why did I do that? And I think she was sitting there going, yeah, I've been wondering that when you were going to catch up with me on that idea. Like, this is ridiculous. And so we repainted the house to the colors that she wanted. But I don't have a for instance for you in your relationship. I just wonder, what is the new you need to introduce into your relationship? And both of you go, we're willing to try this. And not be the men or women in it and just sit back in the corner and roll your eyes going, okay, we'll just wait for this to fail and then I'll tell you I told you so. What if you jump both into it and celebrate what both are trying to do? Like I said earlier, it's often not until we walk a mile in somebody's shoes do we realize why they were doing or thinking the way they were. Walking a mile in somebody else's shoes. I want to jump into the Christmas story. It's really like the Christmas story in the Bible. We're going to talk about the version that the author Matthew writes. Matthew was a tax collector before he found Jesus. If you have read through the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they all have the account where Jesus bumps into Matthew and says, hey, Matthew, I want to go to your house. And the other disciples got to be going, why are we talking to this tax collector guy? He's just bad news. If you're going to his house, that means we're going to hang out with other people that are not right people. They're messy. Well, Jesus, what are you doing? Like, actually, the Jewish law says we can't do that. Like, what are you doing? Jesus is like, Matthew, I want to come to your house. And I love the story and where Matthew finds Jesus because Matthew is in his mess. He's probably stealing money. That was the deal with tax collectors, and why when you read through the Bible that tax collectors are frowned upon is because really a tax collector could charge you whatever he or she wanted to. Let's say I'm a tax collector and I came to you and was like, oh yeah, you, I like you. And so I'm just going to do the bare minimum for you. Caesar says it's 5%, so 5% tax from you, so I'll let it go. But in my mind, I know, but the person I don't like, I'm going to charge 10 times the amount to make up for the friends I like. And so that's why tax collectors have a bad rap in through this time period, is because they just as long as Caesar got what Caesar wanted, Caesar didn't care what tax collectors did. And so here Jesus bumps into Matthew and says, hey, man, you come follow me. And Matthew's like, cool, I'll do that. He didn't say cool. That was me saying that. But he says, I'll follow you. I believe you are who you said you are. You're God's one and only son. I'll follow you. And he follows him. And then Jesus says, tonight, let's hang out at your house. And Matthew, in his mess, follows Jesus. And in his mess, following Jesus, Jesus helps fix his mess. Oftentimes, as people, we think we got to fix our mess before we find Jesus. That we got to get picked better before we find Jesus. That just, to me, where else do we do that? You don't get healthy and then go to a doctor and go, I think I had a sinus infection a little bit ago, but now I'm better. I just was checking to see if I was correct. We don't get better. We don't. Now, some of us, when we go to the dentist, you try to clean your teeth as best as you can, but I don't think most of us get out those tools that scrape your teeth really bad, right? You don't do that, but you do floss, and you try to, like, is it good? Because you don't want a bad report when you go to the dentist. But for the most part, we don't get better before to those places. We go to those places to get better. Same thing with Jesus. It's not, let me fix my attitude before I go to Jesus on it, or let me fix it. It's go to Jesus with your mess. He wants to help clean you up in the process. When somebody finds Jesus, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden all problems are gone. It just means, hey, I'm just admitting I'm a really messy person. I need Jesus in my life. He's now my hope, and I'm going to sort this stuff out. It's not, poof, everything's gone, and it's a magical change. It's a process. And I love that process. I love when someone finds Jesus, and they admit, hey, I'm just messy, and here's where my messes are. I don't have it right here and here. That's so fun, because somewhere along the line, as we become followers of Jesus, especially in Western culture, is that we have to hide our messes now. I got to pretend I got it together. I got to pretend I know what I'm doing. Where we look at Matthew never goes, no, you can't come to my house now, Jesus. Now that I know you, I got to pretend that my life is all together. He's like, yeah, come on. And if you read the story of Matthew finding Jesus, it's tremendous, and we don't have time to go into all of it, but we're going to jump into, I give you that context that you understand Matthew found Jesus, didn't know him, was lost, and then found, and he then begins to record what he experienced with Jesus as an eyewitness account. If you're on the fence about who Jesus is, may that give you a little bit of weight on a scale to tip it. Go, oh, wait, Matthew did life with Jesus. Matthew said, I will follow you, Jesus, in my mess. I don't know what all that means, Jesus, but yeah, I'll follow you. And then may that tip the scale for you that maybe this Jesus thing is real. And maybe this Christmas season you'll go, okay, maybe the Christmas story is real. Because I don't know where you sit, but I want the Christmas story to be real. I want it all to be real. I know it's all real, but don't you hope that everyone, like, right? We all want it to be real, because that's where the life change happens. It's real. It's a game changer. And so author Matthew writes down the beginning of Jesus' life with his mother and father, and Jesus' earthly dad is Joseph, and Mary's his mom. And we're going to jump in really quick in Matthew chapter 1, where we're going to hear from Joseph's perspective. They're not married at this point. They are engaged, but in their culture, engagement is not like engagement here, where you get engaged and then you set the marriage date. In this culture, you are married. You'd have to get a divorce to end this engagement. However, you've not moved in together. You have not had sex yet. You are married yet. You're just waiting for a time. In the culture, when this process happens, the engagement happens, what happens is the husband goes and builds a house for them, sometimes connected to their family, but they're building the house. And when the house is ready, the groom goes and gets the bride. It's like she doesn't know the night. If you even read through the other Gospels, there's a lot of correlations about the brides with their lamps lit waiting for the groom to come. There's analogies all through that, and it's because in their culture, the groom went and made the house and then got her, and then the party started. It was all a big surprise. It could be a year. It could be 6 weeks. It could be what? It's just different. And so here we jump into where Mary is pregnant. Joseph finds out. and they have not had sex. So in his mind, he's like, she cheated on me. Because in his mind, in most people's minds, it's like, you don't get pregnant unless there is an action, right? Unless something happens. Up to this point, there had never been a miracle, right? Like where God put a child in somebody's womb. That just had not happened before. And so Joseph is hearing this he's like, right, so my woman, she cheated on me. And so he loved her. And let's jump into this story. This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law, which was I was talking about, you don't have sex until you bring them to the house, and yet did not want to expose her to the public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. Because of love. We asked the question, what does love require you to do? And here he goes, I love this woman so much. I can't believe she did this to me. I don't want what she, in the law, says that you are stoned and killed if this happens. And he's like, I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to do it all privately. That's his intentions. So he goes, but after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophets. And this is what was wrote in the Old Testament. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. I read that, and I always want to keep the wonder to it. But I think a lot of times we hear it and like, yep, I hear that once a year at least, and it's like, yeah, okay, that happened to my best friend the other day. Angel showed up at night, and they had this conversation, and their best friend got pregnant by the Holy Spirit. It's just normal. It's just normal. But to me, I read that, I was like, wow. And it fulfilled scriptures. You know this, if you read through Matthew, that Matthew, I believe he records the most amount of events fulfilling the Old Testament. Like he did some of the work for you and I. He's trying to go, hey, this stuff's real. He's not just recording it to be like, hey, this is like Star Wars. This is like their entertainment. No, he's trying to say, this is real. And he goes back into the Old Testament. He pulls up all these, okay, this event happened, and it matches here in the Old Testament. And it happened just like it was foretold. Now you're going, well, how does that all happen? Hey, I don't know all those things. That's what makes God God, is how does he orchestrate all that stuff? I don't know. We can prove it, though. We have people that were eyewitness accounts to what Jesus did. We have Jesus speaking of events, and you're like, hey, if Jesus can die and rise again, right? And he told people he was going to do that, and he pulls it off. Don't you think you should listen to what he has to say? Because he did the thing he said it seemed impossible, to die, and I'll come back to life 3 days later, and he did it. It's like game changer. And if you've heard that, and you know that, would you let it go from here to here? Because if it goes from here to here, you know what happens? Is we want to tell the world. We want to put what we value the most in the window of our lives so everybody else can see it. Like the leg lamp was displayed for everyone to see. If we truly know who Jesus is and what he can do for people, isn't it wise and kind of us to put Jesus on display? And how do we do that? By simply seeing a need and meeting a need. Isn't that what Jesus did? He did his life, and when he saw a need, if someone was sick, he figured out how to help them. And then he would tell stories of a good Samaritan, and the good Samaritan sees somebody injured on the side of the road, and he stops and helps somebody, and he doesn't just help them with just like, hey, let me bandage you up. He gave a lot of his money to put a stranger up in a hotel. It was everything the Samaritan had. Jesus tells these stories to come around and say, listen, if you believe who I am and what I did is to save people from their misery, would you put me on display? Daily, for those that are followers of Jesus, is Jesus on display in your life? Or if you told somebody you're a follower of Jesus, they go in their mind, well, that's a shocker to me. I didn't know that. So how do we display Jesus in our life? It's definitely through our attitude. It's simply putting a smile on, frowning less. It's encouraging instead of discouraging. And it's so much easier to discourage than it is to encourage. But that's the very thing we want. We want to be encouraged. We want people to see needs and meet needs in our lives, but it starts with you doing it. It starts with us taking the step, going, I can see a need, and I can meet a need. When Joseph woke up, Matthew continues, he did what the angel of the Lord commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate the marriage until she gave birth to the son. And he gave him the name Jesus. So this is the fast version of how it all took place. When I read that story, I often think, man, most followers of Jesus are known for what they stand against instead of what they stand for. Right? Isn't that what most followers of Jesus are known for? Oh, yeah, you're not going to like this because that's what. Why can't the people we stand up for? And it's people. It's loving people, no matter how messy they are. And trust me, the more messy people are, it does get frustrating at times. Because they might not treat you with the same love and respect that you treat them. But I think Jesus set us as a perfect example. He was spit on, punched, mocked, all of these things. I think when you become a follower of Jesus, it's par for the course. It's part of it. Jesus comes along and says, hey, when you're made fun of and given a hard time for being a light, when you put me on display and somebody pokes fun at you, it'll really coming at me, not you. I know it's easier said than done because, boy, we take that stuff personal. And when we get hurt, then we turn around sometimes and hurt other people. But we just remember that, man, they're not, what should break our heart in those moments is those that are giving you a hard time for being a follower of Jesus, they don't know Jesus yet. And that should invite you in to pray for those people. It should break your heart more. Unlocked Church started and exists to partner with people that don't know Jesus, to figure out how to create an environment where people that don't know Jesus would come in here, feel relaxed, feel welcomed, that they might be able to begin a journey with Jesus. And as people begin a journey with Jesus, we'll partner with people to keep pointing into what does Jesus have to say about your marriage, your finances, point to you, what does Jesus have to say in the way you raise your kids. We do small groups to connect people together and to learn more about the principles of Jesus. What is worship? What is prayer? We try to talk about all of those things as people are coming in here and finding Jesus. And that just sets me off. I love it. I absolutely love it. There's a woman in the Bible that her name is Dorcas. Maybe some of you growing up, you're like, are you messing with me? You grew up in church, you know I'm not, but if you haven't, you're like, seriously, somebody named their child Dorcas. Yes, I don't think it means what it means today a little bit, right? But Dorcas means gazelle. Or Tabitha. Tabitha, Dorcas, same thing, but they both mean gazelle. So apparently she was very fast-footed. I don't know, gazelle. She was born, and her parents named her Dorcas, also Tabitha. And Peter tells a story, or Luke records the story of Peter in this event that happens with Dorcas. And I want to wrap up with this story. And you can find this story in Acts chapter 9, verse 36. In the book of Acts, it's so much fun if you're like, okay, how did this all get past Jesus dying on the cross and rising again? Book of Acts records the beginning of the idea of church and people getting together. And they came together much like we do to be the catalyst of the week, to launch you out, pull you back in a slingshot, saying, hey, we're going to give you an idea. Now go execute it with your friends and family and your coworkers. This is the catalyst. Get you started. And so Peter it begins a journey to all these churches planted around in the culture. And he's just going around to talk about his encounters with Jesus because Peter was one of his disciples, Jesus' disciples. And he's going, hey, I was an eyewitness account to all of that stuff. And to be really honest with you, I was the idiot of the group. I put my foot in my mouth all the time. I told Jesus I'd never deny him, and I did it 3 times, even to a little girl. I was embarrassed to tell you that. Like, I'm the guy that got out of the boat, and I was walking toward Jesus, and then I sank, and people are going to make fun of me for decades and years, thousands of years. I'm going to be part of people's jokes. That's me. And he's coming around to all, but here's the deal. I know about grace and how Jesus forgives me of my past. And I'm here to tell you, if he forgave me of my past, he can forgive you of your past. And so he's going around to these churches, encouraging and inspiring those that are new followers of Jesus. And when he's on this tour, if you will, going from place to place, he's in Joppa. In Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha, or Dorcas. And she was doing good in helping the poor. Okay, Luke, the author of the Acts, is defining Tabitha by what she's done. He says, hey, you're going to, and a lot of times when you read through the Bible, oftentimes we are told what they do. They're defined by what they do, especially in that culture. And so Luke is telling the story about Peter's on a tour to churches, and then all of a sudden in Joppa, there's this girl named Tabitha, and she did great things. She was always doing good in helping the poor. I thought about this when I read this. She was doing good in helping the poor. And here today we're talking about Dorcas to wrap this up. Obviously she changed the world. And still is changing the world by simply doing good and helping the poor. Simply seeing needs and meeting needs, she changed the world. She looked around, saw poor people, and said, what can I do? And I'm going to give you the answer on how she came up with that. In the second here, you're going to find out that turn of events in Tabitha's life, she gets sick and she dies. But she's defined by what she did and was doing good for the poor. And people start freaking out. She passes away, rightfully so. People loved her and what she was doing, and they call for Peter. But why did she spend her time and was defined by helping the poor and doing good? Because she saw the need and met the need. Do you know how you meet the needs? With what's in your hands. What you already possess. The talents that you already have. God gave you the tools to meet needs with your neighbors and your coworkers and family. He already gave you, and they're different than mine. You can't go, well, I can't do what you're doing, Scott. You're not called to do what I'm doing. Holly talked a little bit ago, my lovely wife talked about our YouTube channel. Like, we have this YouTube channel, and our heart is to reach people. And it's like, I follow different YouTubers, and I'm like, man, these people are posting videos, and they are immediately millions of views. Like millions of views within seconds. I'm like, they're getting a message throughout the world in seconds. And I'm like, man, how as a baby church, and this was a couple years ago, how can we leverage that? How can we build an audience on YouTube to get the message out there in a way that would be creative and create an audience that would keep coming back? Because, yeah, we could take teachings like this and put them online, and we do. But we get like 16 views on those. Because people that are not followers of Jesus are not looking for teachings. They're not YouTubing that. They're YouTubing crazy things. Right? Followers of Jesus are looking for teachings, and they might Google that, and they might YouTube it. But for the most part, we're not searching those things. And so we're like, that is not a strategy to get an audience of unchurched people. And so we started out 2 years ago. Man, we're gonna leverage having, at the time, 7 kids. Maybe people will follow along in that. And we got a little bit of traction here, and we had some really good stories, and they're still on our YouTube channel. And then all of a sudden we bumped into these things called One Wheels about a year ago. And we're like, man, there seems to be a lot of people interested in these One Wheels. Well, let's start making content about One Wheels and see if we get an audience. And we're gaining some audience from talking about One Wheels, and then partnering in there, Jesus Thoughts. A couple weeks ago, we did a video about lights on One Wheels. I like the lights, and I really like the One Wheel. But I'm leveraging the One Wheel to get an audience to point them to Jesus. Because what's in my hands? I had a One Wheel. It was in my hand. I didn't have to create something. I had it. Jesus plopped it in my hands a year ago. What am I going to do with it? Yes, I love writing it, but how do I use this to reach people, to present them with the good news of Jesus? And so a couple weeks ago, we did the light video, and then in it, we talk right at the end, we're like, hey, be the light in the darkness. Whatever's good inside you, let it come out and let it shine. That is a biblical concept. We just didn't read the verse to them. We just told them what Jesus had to say. And our hopes is at some point they find Jesus and they're like, I heard that. I've heard that one time before. I didn't know that was Jesus' principle. Think about the way Jesus communicated to people that weren't followers. He told stories, made them up to paint pictures for them. He tried to be as creative as possible to draw in an audience, and then he turned it around and was like, hey, I'm the hope. I'm the good news. When we talk about Christmas, this video that we're going to do, and we're putting a lot of time into it, we will present the gospel as plain as day to people online. And I know maybe you as an audience, you're like, I'm not really into one wheels. That's okay. We understand that. I'm not trying to sell one wheels. I am not a salesman of one wheels, okay? We're looking where God is showing up, and it's like, hey, this is becoming real easy, and we're getting an audience. You know, the bonus to it is that our budget for our life development, kids, the high school, middle schooler, and babies, is all funded by YouTube right now. Doesn't that sound a lot like Jesus? I mean, we're using something the world is using to spread some message, and we're leveraging it to read a gospel message that's tucked in there some way. Read our comments. People are going, why are you guys always so positive? You know what? They'll find out on Christmas. Why are we always putting a twist that's always positive, not negative? We don't bash people on there. They're like, you guys are a fresh of breath air on YouTube. My hope is that we keep growing and the resources come. Could you imagine one day, decades from now, that we would build a building and it be funded by YouTube? We do not want to create a church where we're doing love offerings and we're doing, hey, let's have a giving campaign. That's not what we want to do. But we want to constantly change the world and go into the world and make an impact. And we are willing to do whatever it takes to do that and reach as many as possible. We're not looking to make money off of YouTube. We're looking to spread the gospel. But in it, Jesus is like, as you spread the gospel, here's a bonus. Just in 28 days, 25,000 people watched our videos. That's so small. There is somebody that just to give you even more on like the YouTube, like we've reached heaps of people that are sitting in here from YouTube. They found us on YouTube and they're like, wait, you're a pastor? You come here? I gotta come. We're trying to reach generations behind us. Yeah, 40 years and plus, YouTube not a big deal. Below, YouTube's a big deal. And that's why we're there, is that I looked at things like this and go, what's in my hand? Wait, I can create videos. I know how to do that. I'm going to create a YouTube channel in hopes that we reach people with the gospel message. And we have. People have found Unlocked Church, found Jesus here, and they found us watching videos online. Do you know that if you were at our party a couple weeks ago, there's several thousands of dollars toys donated? Do you know that's from a YouTuber that found us on YouTube? That said, I hear what you're doing. They watched the video, said, oh, you've got this party. I want to be able to give this to your party and give us thousands of dollars. Like they unbox toys on their YouTube channel. Isn't it crazy? Like 2 years ago, we're like, okay, this sounds crazy. We're going to go do it. And look at what's happening. Can you imagine where it goes from here? It's simply taking what do I have in my hands and what can I do? I can talk in front of people, sometimes too long. And I can talk in front of people because I'm passionate about topics and I want to push people towards their greatness and I love people. It's a passion of mine. And it's like, how do I creatively unlock this gospel message of Jesus in people's lives? And those things are in my hands. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing and why we have the YouTube channel. And my prayer, and we've been praying a lot about Christmas Day. It will have one wheels in it because, again, people are searching one wheels. I want to tell you what we're going to do. It's going to be pretty fun. You're going to be entertained. It's going to be entertaining, and we're going to put the gospel message in there. If you've got friends and family across the world, and they can log in at 1 o'clock and watch the thing with you and try to inside a chat room. And there's going to be hilarious moments because it's just Lily, Joey, and I in there, and it just will be, okay? There's going to be some really serious moments. And yet, we're going to use one wheels because people will search it. And for the next decade, it'll sit on YouTube, and people will watch it. And we'll get to see comments about, man, Jesus just changed my life through this video. And that excites me. It excites me. So I want to wrap up with this Dorcas, right? Or Tabitha. Doing good and helping the poor. About that time, she became sick and died, and her body was washed and placed in the upper room. They delayed burying her. In Jewish culture, it was like you die, you get into the ground. But her friends were like, man, maybe Jesus will show up and do something crazy, so we're going to put her in the upper room in a cool place. They got 2 days. In Jewish law, you got 2 days to bury a body. So like, we're going to play our odds. We got 2 days. We know that Peter is around here somewhere, and so they reach out to Peter, and they said, hey, Peter, this disciple of Jesus, Tabitha, she got sick and she's died. Would you come? And so he left where he was and went to Joppa. If you want to know what Joppa is today, it is also Jaffa. It's south of Tel Aviv, and it's 38 miles from Jerusalem. So if you want to look on a map and find where all this happened, it happened right there. Peter went with them, and when he arrived, he was taken up to the upstairs in the room. All the widows stood around crying and showing him the robes and other clothes that Dorcas had made when she was still alive. So now we know what was in her hand. She was a seamstress. She could stitch things together. She saw poor people without clothes. She saw them probably with just holes and stuff. She's like, you know what? If I give them a coat, it covers up their embarrassment, and it's me seeing their need and meeting them. And as I'm doing that, I can talk about who Jesus is and go, hey, this is what I can do. I'm going to put a coat on them. And when I do it, they're going to go, why are you so positive all the time, Dorcas? Why are you smiling all the time, especially with that name? Why would you be like that? And she's like, because I know a man named Jesus, and he changed my life forever, and he can do the same thing for you. But until you make that decision, I'll keep making you clothes. And she just kept doing that, covering up their messes. What a beautiful picture of a woman seeing a need, meeting a need, going, how do I help them in process? And she passes away. People are sad, and they go, look at what she did. Do you think she knew the last coat she was making, man, death feels like it's just right around the corner, this is the last one? Probably not. Death typically sneaks up on most people. My question to you, you don't know when death will creep up on you. Will you be known for what good you've done? Will you be defined by the see a need, meet a need idea? My hope is that I will. I don't know if I will. I don't get to decide that. That will be decided when I am dead. But will you look at your life and go, if I was to die today, not to be negative, but would you be defined by the stuff you have or the stuff you gave away? Because think about it. Jesus was defined by what he gave his way. He gave away his life. Think about this, talking about seamstress and what skills you have. We are always stitching things around here, and early on, we'd have a black backdrop back here, and we taped it together because it was like, who can sew? And Holly was like, I'll stitch it. And I remember the first backdrop that fell apart one Sunday. The tape fell apart. She's now sewing it. Oh, no, she came in and stitched it by hand, and it took forever. This is 24 feet long, and she's just stitching it. All of a sudden, there's somebody in the church that has the ability to stitch amazingly fast, like so fast, like gets done within an hour, what took Holly days and weeks. She just gets it done. And it seems like, it was funny when I was talking to this lovely person, she's just like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. But to us, it was a huge deal. It's like, you just knocked down like 3 days of work that would take us to sew this, get it done in an hour. This is so amazing. And what was the deal? I saw a need. What do I have in my hands? I can sew a backdrop. And it's made an impact because it makes this look good. It's somebody using their skills to make an impact in your life, in other people's lives. And yeah, it's through a sewing machine. Whatever your talent is, please do not quantify it and go, you can't do this and that. You have no idea. If you build websites, build them and build them in a way to serve people. When I read through the Tabitha deal, Tabitha was not charging these things. She wasn't like, well, you know what, I'm not going to give you that cloak because maybe Ralph Lauren will call me and I'll get a good deal on it and I'll be really famous. That's not what she was trying to do. She was like, I see a need, I'm going to meet a need. And so Peter walks into the room. He sees what she's done. He goes, everybody out of the room. You know what? That Peter saw Jesus do this 3 other times. Jesus walked in the room, kicked everybody out, and then Jesus said, get up. You're better. Stop laying there. You're not sleeping anymore. Get up. The difference, what Peter does here, is that Jesus isn't in the room. Peter walks in, kicks everybody out, and Peter goes, I know it's not me that does it. He prays to Jesus, says, Jesus, will you heal her? Will you bring her back to life? And her eyes open. And then he calls everybody in, and they have a big party. Here's what needs to happen. You know the scale that goes do, re, mi, what's, okay, look at, you know it. Look, you had no idea you were going to get quiet. Okay, let's do that one more time. Let's go. Let's start at the beginning of that. Go. And then when you stop, when I say stop, you stop there, okay? Okay, let's start from the beginning. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Stop. What was that right there? Do it again. Faster. Okay. Now let's go 2 ahead. What do we got to get past? We got to get past me to what? Stop it. So. We got to get past me, and we got to sow. Sow is in put things in the ground. You want to be defined by the good you do and the work you do? Get past me and get to sow and pour into people's lives. However you can, whatever's in your hand, sow in people's lives. Stop being all about you, because what happens is I can't do that. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough resources. If you don't have enough time, you're too busy, and that's the enemy tricking you that that's success. If you're too busy to see needs and be in people's lives, please trim down some of the stuff you're doing so you have time for other people. That will make you more like Jesus. Western culture says get busy and fill your schedule full. You'll feel successful. That's not successful. Jesus says, I want to know what good you are doing for other people. So start with what you have. When God taps you on your heart, do it immediately. Don't wait. And notice Dorcas didn't give things away with a discount. She just gave it away with no strings attached and didn't say, well, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to sell it for drugs? Or are they going to do this? That's not your responsibility. That's on them. Jesus will ask, what did you do with what I gave you? And then he'll talk to the next person and go, hey, Chris gave you that, and then what did you do with that car you gave? Did you sell it for drugs? It's not on you to determine what that person does with it. Stop doing that. Just give what God has asked you to give, and you will watch things change. This is my hope today, and this is how I wrap it up. My hope is today that as you shop and do Christmas parties and school events and family gatherings, that you would do a little less sharing of what you're against and more sharing of how you can help them. That will make your family time so much better. I pray that Jesus spoke to you today, and I hope that something is going to be different in your life. Would you close your eyes for a second? Jesus, I pray that the truth jumped into our lives today, that you said something to us today that would make us different, that would make our marriage better, that would make us better parents, make us better students, that would make us better boyfriend and girlfriends, make us better sons and daughters, that we would be better because we are trying to be more like you. May we look at our skills and talents, and may we use them to reach those that don't know you. And as we do that, Jesus, would you show up and show off in that person's life and the person that's seeing the need, meeting the need. Jesus, may we have the opportunity to do, may we see it so clearly this week, so clearly. And may people know what we're for instead of against. And may we filter everything through what does love require me to do. And may we do those things. In Jesus. As the Vikings play in a couple minutes here, I would just ask that you would prevent Cook from being hurt anymore. That scared me. I'd ask that you would be with the Lions as they lose today, that they would know that you still sit on a throne and that you love them. Jesus, thank you for the amazing people that are here today. We're just asking that you would show up and show off through our lives and use us as a church to change a city. Jesus, love you so much. In your name, amen. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.